when I was 715 pounds and literally dying, my doctor was happy with my diet. He said was on a good diet.
Mm,
I show,
mm.
I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel. And I think we're multi streaming this to the Carnivore Cure channel as well. So, for those of you that don't know who Todd is, I'm going to let Todd introduce himself. My wife Faith is going to be here in a second, probably. I'm going to let Todd, I want you to introduce yourself. I want you to kind of give us your origin story. I know you said you've been carnivore now for 9 months. Kind of set us up, like paint us the picture of like where you were before carnivore, what led you to carnivore, and then what have you experienced in the last 9 months?
Absolutely. Yeah, my name's Todd Bachnes. I'm from Bozeman, Montana. In electrical contracting. I'm 40 years old. And yeah, I've been carnivore the last 9.5 months, man, and it has completely changed my life. I'm a completely new person with a actual future right now that I didn't have even 9 months ago. It's pretty amazing. Um, yeah, I was just big my whole life. By the time I was 14 years old, I was 600 pounds, and
Wow.
yeah, like it was just, I just was growing out of control. And I know most of it was soda, right? But also
Yeah.
just a terrible, I was just metabolically very sick, looking back at it. But because I was this huge kid, and we were broken poor when I was a
Yeah.
kid. And my dad was a Marine, but he got hit pretty hard with that Agent Orange when he was in Vietnam,
Mm,
and that destroyed his arteries. So when he got
mm,
out, even though he was a healthy Marine, he was having blockages and stuff because the Agent Orange got into his blood and deteriorated his arteries, and so he was getting 100% blockages over and over. So he started having huge heart attacks when he was like 38.
mm.
So it was rough for him to be able to make a living and raise six kids, and fighting the health problems, And
Hmm.
so we just kind of did, what we could, but that was a lot of pasta, macaroni and cheese, and cheap sodas, and you know, processed carbohydrates,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was cheap, it went a long way. And that's kind of where it started. And then, press forward, like I said, we were all little kind of pressed for money, and things were tight, and dad's health was bad. So my dad was an electrician by trade. He got an electrical engineering degree in the Marines. So when he
Mm.
got out, he started an electrical contracting company, and started doing that. But he couldn't do a bunch of the work, because his
Right.
heart
Health.
was real
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so he just turned all his kids into electricians. you
Awesome. I
know,
love it.
Yep. So we all started going to work. I went to work when I was 12. I was
That's
homeschooled
great.
when I was 12. And then
Nice.
dad's like, "You are now 18."
You got emancipated when you were 12.
Yeah, so yeah, I was 18 for about 6 years. And we were working and wiring everything. And like I said, I got a big frame out of it because I was carrying around 600 pounds while, working in the field and stuff. So I was strong, but the weight was wearing on me.
Hmm.
And I just started going on a million roller coaster diets. I'd go to the doctor, and they'd check your thyroid and do all this stuff. And they said, yeah, you got, slow thyroid. And they give me medication for that. And they'd put me on, they'd give me, nutritionists, and they tell me how to eat the balanced standard American diet, which was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that just started a roller coaster throughout my life. Of I'd start a diet with them, it was miserable, felt terrible, was always hungry, it was just maddening. So I just stop eating. I do that. I did that, more times than I can count. But um, yeah, I just go on these long starvation diets where I just, would maybe eat one meal a day. Not even that. I mean, most of them were silly. One diet, I've lost over 200 pounds twice in my life and over 300 pounds twice in my life and gained it all back every time, you know. But it
Wow.
was always through starvation, you know.
Yeah.
Um, then when I was 18, I was working on a job site. I was in a basement of this big fancy house, and I went up there to, to get some holes through this concrete wall so I could get some conduits out of the apron before they poured concrete. When I got up there, they told me the wall was 12 inches thick. Well, it was 18 inches thick, and it was miserable. So I was down there working to get through this wall. And the Corbon insulation guys came in with their full hazmat suits and were
Mm-hmm.
pumping in fresh air from outside. And I was young and stupid, and so I just decided I was going to tough it out. I breathed in all that Corbon fume all day, and that did something to my lungs. It hurt my lungs pretty bad, and I ended up with reactive airway disease from that when I was 18. And so after that, I got pneumonia or bronchitis every year. My oxygen saturation dropped to 88%, and I just could never get it above that. And my lungs were just miserable after that.
Mm.
Every year, I just fought it, and that was just another thing that just seemed to help keep the weight on because I just couldn't breathe. I would
Mm.
start, doing anything laborious or whatever. I just had these ridiculous asthma attacks, felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest all the time. And so I just went through all these starvation diets. The biggest one, I ate twice a week, under 1,000 calories twice a week. And I did that
Oh.
for 17 months. And I did get down to 337 pounds, which was the lightest I've ever been in my adult life. But I tore my rotator cuff at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up tearing up my right knee and had to have knee surgery. I was losing a ton of muscle and I was getting really weak. I started getting dizzy and tunnel vision, which now I know I got really depleted on electrolytes and minerals
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of stuff. And about that time, I got married. And I thought, all right, well, my wife's going to cook healthy and this is going to be fine. So I started eating again, and she was cooking steamed vegetables and chicken and rice and whole wheat pasta and all this stuff. And I gained 300 pounds back so fast. It was unreal. Within like
Mm-hmm.
13 months, it came on like nobody's business.
Wow.
And I was still fighting the soda. My biggest addiction in life was soda. that
Yeah.
stuff was, that stuff was miserable. And yeah, so just fast forward to 2015, I was put in the ICU again for reactive airway disease. My oxygen had dropped and down into the 60% saturation. I was super sick. I couldn't even stand up, and they had to put me in the ICU for 4 days because I needed 12 liters of oxygen just to stay in 90% saturation. And I was just like, man, I got to do something. This is getting ridiculous. And one thing I had noticed in the past that when I would drink soda, my lungs would be worse. So I just vowed right then and there, I'm never drinking any more calories again. I'll drink diet soda, but I'm not drinking any more calories. I didn't know what it was about it. So I swore off drinking any calories, which was a big deal for me because back then I'd have iced coffee in the morning. I'd have Red Bulls at 10
Mm-hmm.
o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
basically I never really did eat all that much. I just drank most of my calories because I was always drinking some kind of energy drink or coffee or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so I swore off that, and that helped a little bit. And then during that time, some kind of tragedies hit our family. Me and my wife split up, and she took off, and then my dad and my brother died, both 11 days apart
Mm.
from each other, and so life just sucked.
Yeah.
It was a terrible time. So I got, you know, through the whole time I was fighting depression and anxiety. I thought it was kind of like Jordan Peterson says, you could have a chemical problem, or your life might just suck, and you might be depressed about it, and might be a reason for it. I always just figured that came from circumstance, and that if I got my stuff squared away, it would go away. But so I was fighting that, and uh, finally got rid of drinking the calories. And at the time, my brother was on a weightlifter diet. He had kind of built a gym and a weight room, and he was lifting, and he was reading all of Frank Zane's stuff because he liked Frank
Okay.
Zane from,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I was looking for a new diet to do, and I was kind of burnt out on the doctors and dietitians because it never worked. Nothing they ever said ever really panned out. So I was like, well, my brother's like, why don't you try the weightlifter diet? So I did that, which was high protein, low fat, moderate carbohydrate. And I did that for 14 months and I lost 37 pounds over 14 months, which was a joke. And I never felt worse or more depressed in my life. I mean, that was
Mm.
the most miserable diet I'd ever been on. So I knew I was about to fall off the wagon because every morning I was eating egg whites and turkey sausage for breakfast, and I was eating skinless, boneless chicken breast and brown rice for dinner. And I did that for 14 months, and I was ready to lose my mind. And I was so out of energy, so tired, I'd have to peel myself out of bed in the morning. Just dreaded waking up. I mean, it was just miserable. So I was like, I got to do something because I cannot eat one more dry piece of white chicken or I'm going to just walk into traffic. I can't do this one more day. So I looked up online how to make chicken not so dang dry, and it came up sous vide cooking. And so I started watching these fellows on YouTube called Sous Vide Everything. I don't know if you've ever seen their channel, they're awesome. But so I ordered this sous vide setup, this circulation pump, and all this stuff, vacuum sealer. But when I was watching the sous vide anything guys, they kept sous videing these ribeyes. And I
Ooh.
was just sitting there drooling over these ribeyes because all I've had is this turkey sausage and chicken.
Oh.
And they're making these beautiful ribeyes every day. And I'm watching to learn how to use this sous vide machine. But they're cooking these ribeyes and then pan searing them in butter. And I'm like, oh my God, I want one of those so bad. So I was like, all right, when, when this sous vide machine gets here, I've got to try one ribeye, like the sous vide everything's guy do, and then I'll go back to this dry chicken purgatory that I've been in. And typical standard American diet addiction liar or whatever. I said I was gonna have one, but I went to Costco and bought four ribeyes. you know? So, but that's actually where it started changing everything because I got that sous vide machine. I had this pack of ribeyes. And so I ran the calories and I was like, if I cut out the rice and the eggs and all that other junk, and I only eat once a day, but I can have this ribeye sous vide butter and at least the calories are about the same. So I got that ribeye, I sous vide it, I pan seared it in butter. I ate that thing, and for the first time in 14 months, it was like my depression kind of lifted. I was happy.
Hmm.
It tasted amazing and I had energy for the first time in 14 months. And I was like, I just thought it was like a mental break, right? I thought it was just like I was cheating, so I was happy about it, and it was just an
Mm-hmm.
attitude thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I ate those other three ribeyes one a day for 4 days consecutively. Never felt better in my life. My mood was so good. My energy was through the roof. And in 4 days, I know it was fluid, but in 4 days, I lost 13 pounds. And I'm like, so
Wow.
I've been starving and miserable and suicidally depressed for 14 months on this weightlifter diet and only lost 37 pounds. And I've lost 13 pounds in 4 days eating ribeyes and butter. What is going on here?
So
And I'd
so
never,
you're saying, are you saying that you kind of like accidentally stumbled across the carnivore diet just through
That's
your
well,
own?
crazy.
That's kind of
right, I
hilarious.
did. I did.
Okay.
Wow.
Because so I had never heard of keto or carnivore before. But I'd
Hmm.
heard of
That's
Atkins, but of
funny.
course Atkins was crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
If you eat
Yeah.
Atkins, your heart's gonna explode and land on the table in front of you, and you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So I just, but I found so after 4 days of that, I was really thinking I'm just gonna do this. But so I googled it. I'm like, why am I feeling fantastic and losing weight off of ribeyes and butter? What's going on here?
That's wild.
And it
That's
brought up,
hilarious.
uh, brought up guy named Dr. Darren Schmidt. He's got a YouTube channel, and it brought up the ketogenic diet, and it brought up Candida's gut, is what it came up with. So I read all that stuff, and that was a blessing and a curse because it put me on the keto path. And then, so I was
Mm.
all in on keto, but keto led me to all the
Keto
processed
snacks.
keto
Yeah,
crap. Yep.
exactly. Every
If
time.
I would have
Yeah.
just, yep, if I would have just kept doing what I was doing with the ribeyes and butter, would have been golden. But instead, I was like, oh, well, I can make chaffles and fathead dough and pizzas and fat bombs and bulletproof coffees and keto muffins and all this complete nonsense. And so I went round and round with keto for about 2 years, and I went up and down and up and down and in and out of ketosis, and all the carbs were staying alive and everything. But at least it had my mind in the right area, you know? And
Hmm.
so I realized finally after 2 years that,
So being
you know,
on keto, you were still able to keep the depression at bay. Like you felt mentally
it
well.
much better for sure. Like it
Okay.
was crazy. When I was just eating those ribeyes, it was like depression and anxiety disappeared.
Sure.
It was the
Yeah.
craziest thing how fast that disappeared. And that was the first time that I realized that this wasn't a from a bad situation in life. This was really hormonal, you know. This was
Yeah.
100% brain chemistry, you know. And so that was an absolute sorry, my dog just jumped off a chair there. That was absolutely, just revolution, to my brain there, that I didn't have
Hmm.
to fight that anymore, and that you could feel good. And the other thing it did was I learned a lot about like leptin sensitivity and appetite control and that sort of stuff. And I got leptin sensitivity back. Those are the two biggest things keto did for me. But yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole of all that stuff, and I kept going in and out of ketosis, and the soda cravings were still there, and I was drinking all the diet sodas still, and the
Hmm.
diet fruity fizzy drinks and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
doing all the monk fruit and stevia and all that nonsense. So it just kept me on a roller coaster, but at least I did feel better. But then I read Dr. Jason Fung's book on the diabetes code, I think it was called, and he talked
Okay.
about insulin resistance. And I realized that I was the poster child for insulin resistance. So it made all the sense in the world to me. So in 2020, this is right during COVID and all that nonsense, and we had gotten COVID, but it didn't really affect me much. And that had gone through our family, and then end of 2021 into 2022, I decided I was going to do a long fast because Jason Fung talks about getting your fasted insulin set point down using long fasting. And so I decided, kind of much like my personality, that I was going to go ahead and do a 40-day water fast. So I
Wow.
jumped, yeah, and I
Legit.
jumped. I did, and I was honestly that was because I read, I can't remember the fellow's name, but there's that guy in like the 50s or 60s that fasted for like
Hmm.
400 days and he lost like
Yeah.
300. Yeah,
The guy in Ireland or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And what
Hmm.
what why I was liking that was because what was amazing about his story was being in autophagy that long through fasting, his body ate all the loose skin. He had no loose skin after losing 300 pounds.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And I was like, well, that would help. you know, if I,
Right.
if I ever get this weight off, I'm going to look like a Sharpei. So I better do something. So my mind was in that. And I said, you know what, if I can get to day 40 and feel good, I'll just go for another 40. So I just wanted to see what I could do. And I'll tell you what, the first 5 days were rough, but after 5 days, man, it was the easiest thing in the world. Like, no problem. And I was just going for it. But I was an idiot too because wasn't taking any supplements. I wasn't taking any electrolytes at all. And so on day 21, being that I wasn't eating anything, I was drinking so much water and flushing it through me.
Yeah.
I got like super dangerously low on potassium. And it lowered my potassium so bad that I didn't even know this was possible. But when your potassium drops that bad, it screws up your blood plasma somehow, and you don't carry as many red blood cells anymore. So
Hmm.
I started having asthma attacks, and I didn't even know why. I would just be sitting there, and my lungs would close up. It was because my blood wasn't carrying oxygen. And so, anyhow, that was a problem. I had to break the fast and go on back on potassium and food and everything. And I was taking a bunch of potassium, and I was planning on doing it again. But COVID caught me with my pants down because I didn't have an immune system when my red blood cell count was tanked.
Hmm.
And this time, COVID hit me super hard. And so I got terrible pneumonia, and it hit my lungs real hard. And on the fence whether to go in the hospital, and I don't want to get into anything political or taboo for the YouTube algorithms, but I didn't agree with the protocols at the hospital.
Sure.
And
Yep.
to make matters worse, a friend of mine, Ryan, had got it 1 week before I did, and he was the same age as me, but way healthier. And he had gotten it, went into the hospital. They gave him the protocol that I didn't agree with, and he died
Mm.
like 3 days later. And over the next 3 weeks, I gained 84 pounds of fluid in 3 weeks. My body swelled up like a balloon. My legs swelled up to 35 inches in diameter on both calves. I was just a water balloon. And at that time, I could have easily been 800 pounds. I have no clue. I was so huge. And just got super, super sick. And was stuck in a chair. I couldn't stand up. Was sleeping in this recliner, would wake up at night gasping for breath every night. Every day at night, I didn't know if I was going to wake up the next day. And this was after COVID had passed, but I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't want to go to the hospital. So I was reading about everything about how to get this fluid off of me. And it was like celery juice cleanses and taking oregano oil and doing these nebulizers for your lungs and all this stuff. But I was just in a tough spot. And, but I did start getting the fluid off, but I was just stuck, for about 6 or 7 months and was working on it. I was getting some of the fluid off, but I couldn't tell how much of it was coming off. I couldn't weigh, couldn't stand, couldn't move. And, at this time, I wasn't even really eating perfect keto or anything. I wasn't eating much of anything. I was just so sick all the time. And, finally one day, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I had a stroke or they weren't sure because I couldn't fit in the MRI machine once it happened. But I woke up one morning. I was used to waking up with bad headaches from not breathing at night when I was falling asleep. And this time it was just super bad. I usually my air would drop like into the 70s, and I'd wake up with this fat head feeling of not breathing, and I'd have to take deep breaths to get my wits about me and to get my headache to go away and stuff. But this time it was terrible. I never had such a bad headache. I didn't know where it was, didn't know what day it was, couldn't recall words. I checked my oxygen, and it was 61 when I checked it that day. And I was just, I don't know, it was just, and it wouldn't go away. Like the confusion, everything, it was still 6, 7 hours later, and I still couldn't recall words. And it was just a bad spot to be in. So finally had to call an ambulance.
Mm.
Loaded me up in the ambulance. That was no chore. It took like, trick. It took like 7 firefighters to load me up in that ambulance. Pretty much the most miserable thing I ever went through in my life. But I went to the hospital. I was there for 11 days, and they pulled like 65 pounds of fluid off me in those 11 days. And they said, yeah, they took x-rays and stuff, and they said that COVID had scarred up my lungs and gave me congestive heart failure, and that's where all the fluid was coming from.
Fluid was coming from.
Yeah, and so they basically, didn't give me much of a chance and gave me oxygen, sent me home with an oxygen concentrator, and said, we don't know because we haven't dealt with COVID lung and heart long enough to know what it's going to do. So, kind of good luck to you type of thing. And the hospitals were overrun with stuff at that time. And so I spent another 6, 7 months pretty much miserable, not sure what I was going to do, just sit stuck in that chair, and that went on. And then I just started really diving into keto. And I spent several months researching keto, and like another, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And then finally in September 28th of 2022, I decided to give keto, but this time it was going to be super strict keto. And I'd ordered one of those deals you prick your finger and it tests your ketone level through your
Mm-hmm.
blood. And so I decided I'm going to make a keto taco salad every day. And I was doing OMAD. I was going to do OMAD and keto taco salad once a day. So I had meat, taco seasoning, carnivorous vegetables. It was an organic spring mix of charred kale, spinach, and arugula. And so I got those.
Yummy.
I do pound and a half of ground beef, and I was doing the 73/27, and some the best taco seasoning I could find that didn't have a bunch of carbs in it, but now I know they lie about that because
Mm-hmm.
if it's less than a carb for this tiny little bit, it's really there, but they pretend like it's not. But now I know better. But I had that sour cream cheese, and some olives, and that's what I was eating. But I was testing, after 2 weeks of that, I was feeling a little better, but negligible. And I was testing my ketones, and I was still just under being in the bottom end of ketosis. I wasn't getting there. So I was like, well, maybe it's the cheese. So I started cutting the cheese and the sour cream down to half. And 2 more weeks, I was up like a point, 1/10 of 1%, you know, higher on the ketone reader. So I'm like, all right. So I kicked out all the cheese and all the dairy. And that got me to like just at the bottom of ketosis. So I'm like, dang it. So then I got rid of the olives, and then I got rid of the seasoning in the meat. And so pretty much and at one point I added eggs, chopped boiled eggs, because I needed like a texture change. So I kind of replaced the eggs with the cheese with eggs. But I was down to eggs, meat with no seasoning, and this lettuce. And I'm like, I don't really like lettuce, and that's all that's keeping me from carnivore. So, because by now I'd learned about the carnivore diet. So
Uh-huh.
I just chucked the lettuce. And so, but at the time I was still drinking diet sodas, and so I was like, I gotta get off the soda somehow, and that was the worst addiction. So I used to follow Dr. Well, I still like Dr. Berg. I know a lot of the carnivore people don't like him, but I like Dr. Berg, and he had an idea about taking sparkling water, this special kind of lemon juice called organic volcanic lemon juice out of Italy, and liquid stevia in his electrolytes, and making like a sparkling lemonade, you know? And so I did that for 5 weeks too, as I was doing the elimination. So I got these cans, or I think Pepsi or Coke makes them. They're called bubbly, but they're like sparkling water, but they have different flavors, but there's no
Mm-hmm.
calories or anything in them. So I got the lime ones. I'd use those lime ones, 4 limes, bubblies. So 48 ounces of that in a gallon pitcher with ice, and 10 ounces of this lemon juice, a couple squirts of liquid stevia, and 4 scoops of his lemon electrolyte powder. And I'm being specific about that because I don't know what it is about that drink, but it does cure soda addiction. And
Oh
Hmm.
it's
wow.
cured it. It
Awesome.
cured it for me. It cured it for my mom, and my mom was an addict for on coke for 35
Wow.
years, and it got her off. And
Awesome.
so I drank that for 5 weeks while eliminating my ketovore diet down to carnivore. And on January 1st of 2023, I was completely over the soda addiction. I even stopped drinking that lemonade, and I was actually doing BBB and E by that time. The last thing I had to get rid of was black pepper. So I chucked
Hmm.
the black pepper on January 1st, and I'll be danged if that didn't just catapult me into the best diet I've ever been on by far.
So you've been strict carnivore since January.
Yep, since January 1st, I've been drinking nothing but water and
Wow, that's
electrolytes.
awesome.
Haven't eaten anything but the BBE protocol, and yeah,
Wow.
I'm down to 468 pounds from. I don't know what I weighed, to be honest with you. What I did was it took me losing weight for 4.5 months before my legs got small enough that they'd fit on the scale. And
Mm.
then I could finally fit on the scale. And when I was there, it was 647 pounds. So over the next 5 months, I took my next 5 month average and I went backwards for that first 4 months, and that put me at 715 pounds. I think it was
Mm.
likely a lot higher because you lose a lot of fluid in the first few
Sure.
months.
Yeah.
But whatever, I don't really care about what's great is no oxygen. My
Yeah.
oxygen saturation has been
Awesome.
88% or below since I was 18. As I'm sitting here right now with no oxygen, it's 96%. Breathe
Wow.
better than I had when I was 18. Completely mobile
Wow.
again. No depression, no anxiety, no heart palpitations. I fight fluid. a little bit. Like before, I couldn't sit in this chair for 2 hours because my legs would get so packed with fluid that I couldn't even bend them. And they were excruciating. Now, if I work a lot on a computer. I do, I work a lot of 15-hour days. I have to sit in this chair 15 hours a day for 2 weeks before I notice any kind of fluid building up now, where I couldn't
Oh,
even do it for 2 hours before. You used
that's
to have
amazing.
gout. I'd have 5 to 7 gout flare ups a year that were, it would put me in a bed for 2 weeks at a time. Haven't had any gout. Gout's completely gone. Just my memory's so much better. My energy's through the roof. I sleep way better. I wake up with nothing but energy. I'm so much stronger. It really is incredible. And and I also during this uh, I had to get my doctor to take a test to see if I had low testosterone because I had kind of diagnosed through everything I was reading that I must have low testosterone. And yeah, my total testosterone was 137. They said it was the lowest number they'd ever seen. And
Mm.
I'm like, how did you guys not test that in
Oh,
27 years that I've been coming to you guys? Why did I have to tell you
mm,
guys to test for it? But I did. But now I'm gonna get it tested again this January. But I can tell you it's a lot higher. I can already tell you that. Yeah,
Wow, that's awesome.
that's amazing.
So basically, every ailment you've had since you were like 16 years old has reversed itself. In when would you say, so since January, when would you say that the most change do you think took place? How many months was it before you
I would
realized
say
that?
honestly about 2.5 to 3 months into carnivores when things really started changing. Finally, at that point, I stopped taking the oxygen in the day, and I would only use it at night to help me sleep. Because I was worried about stopping breathing at night.
Hmm. Sure.
But also, I realized that your body can become dependent on
Hmm.
external sources of anything really, and stop working for itself. So I'd make sure I took it off during the day. When I was moving around, I let myself get winded and made my body get it back, and just kind of ramp up. And yeah, that was the trick. After another 2 months of that, I didn't even need it at night.
Mm. Wow, that's awesome.
Now, I did just realize something.
What's that?
We need a new button on the soundboard, and we need a Dr. Barry pre recorded huzzah button on this soundboard because your whole story is amazing. Like, it's literally hard to sit here and not just me be sobbing, crying because it's just, I mean, it's a matter of life or death. Like,
It
you had no
absolutely
life.
was.
You had no quality of life whatsoever. You were just on the fast track to dying, and it's
Yeah,
just turned everything around.
100%. That's why I have a channel. For the idea of me, I avoided the camera for 39 years because I'd make family members, I would destroy their phone if they took a picture of me. I hated it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
hated
Hmm.
being on camera. I hated any pictures because you'd have to see it and then you'd have to face it, and I hated that. Man, I hated that. So the idea of being on camera is just nuts. But I was talking to my sister. I said, I think the reason why I'm okay with it now is because when I look back at that guy had me completely dominated. I could not figure out how to not be destroyed by that person that I was looking at in the camera. And now I don't care. This is just a matter of time and all the weight's going to be out because
Mhm.
I don't have
Mm.
a
That's right.
single carb craving. I don't have a
Mm.
single
That's
issue
awesome.
with food or sugar. Everybody, I was on with Sean Baker on the 6th of this month, and he asked me a great question. He's like, "You've lost, over 200 pounds twice and over 300 pounds twice. What are you going to say to the people that say this is just another yo-yo diet?" And that's so simple. Every time I was on any one of those diets, I knew. There's this monkey on my back, and it was like, when is this going to come off the rails? When am I going to fail? How long can I
Right.
keep
Hmm.
this charade up?
Yeah.
Because it just never happened. So you go to bed hungry every night. You would wake up praying to God that today wasn't the day that you were just going to come apart, and that it was
Mhm.
all going to go south on you. I don't go to bed worrying about nothing anymore. I don't go to bed hungry. I don't wake up thinking about anything about food. Food is so not a thing in my life now. I just could care less about it. It's just completely removed that. as any type of problem. Now all I do is one. This is a blessing that I didn't know was going to come from doing a YouTube channel, but being in, talking to people that are commenting on my videos that are asking for help, it keeps you so laser focused on it. Like I want to get down to 250 pounds so bad just so I can show the receipts every day and say I don't care where you came from. I'm the reason
That's
you have
right.
no excuses.
Mm.
I'm the
Mm.
reason that you don't have to worry. Because I
That's
know
right.
what it's like. I used to, even when I was doing carnivore, I believed in the diet, but I also thought that I was too far gone for it to maybe work.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like I was in too much of a hole for it to pull me out
Sure.
of.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going to blame the diet, but I still didn't have that much faith in it, because I just thought I was too gone. Now that I know that it can pull anybody out of that depth, like that's what I want everybody to know because I'm so livid that it was this easy. And I spent, the two times that I was in the ICU cost me almost $100,000 that I had to pay off
Mm.
that I paid to these doctors.
Yeah.
And just so they could put me on this drug roller coaster my whole life and tell me, I was telling this, I was on one of Ken Berry's live streams and I put it in the comments there and he was laughing about it. But when I was 715 pounds and literally dying, my doctor was happy with my diet. He said I was on a good diet.
Mm.
I showed,
Mm.
I do a Zoom call with him, 7 months later, down over 200 pounds, off oxygen, fully mobile again, had healed my lungs. They didn't even know if we're going to heal, have no congestive heart problems that I can tell.
Wow.
And he goes, I'm worried about your diet.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Doc.
Something in, yeah, something in me broke that day. I said, well, I'm worried about your brain. I think you need medical attention, doc, because I think you're nuts. I just broke that day. Like, what do you mean you're worried about my diet? My life has changed and I've saved my own life doing exactly what you told me not to do. And now you're worried about my
Mm.
diet? Like,
Mm.
I was so
Wow.
mad. It's just a joke to me now, you know?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and
It's
it's always
crazy.
incredible the pushback you get with all of the success. Like, so, you know, the doctor's concerned about your diet, but you've eliminated all of your comorbidities and all your health risks, but yet he's worried about your diet. But if you eat myplate.gov and you have like 48 comorbidities, well, keep up the good work. It's like, it's rather,
Mm.
it's hard to
right.
fathom, really. It is cognitive dissonance. And, you know, we are living in a postmodern world, and that just reeks of postmodernism because it's antithetical to just blatant observation.
Right.
Right. And I mean, so I'm a Christian. I'm very staunch conservative. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm all those things that is not popular right now, or so they would say.
You're in good
So the
company.
you know, so the thing that I'm most upset with myself about, and I know that this is where I really failed, is I was delegating my own personal health to the people that sell the bullets and the band-aids. They don't have anything to gain by making me independent and healthy. They have
Yeah.
everything to gain by keeping me on this drug roller coaster. And so
Hmm.
I know that I didn't want to face what it was going to take to get myself healthy. So I kept going to doctors because I wanted a magic pill. And that's where I screwed up. That's my biggest
Hmm.
uh, guilt in all of this was, you know, it's so stupid. In anything else in my life, if it was in any other vector of my life, I would not give people that much power over me, but somehow for 27 years I let the doctors do that, and that was just ridiculous.
Well, and it's just a lack of knowledge too, Todd, because I mean, we were over here trying to do the best we could with the information that we were given for the last 20, however many years now it's been that we've been married. And we just kept changing, and adapting things and trying to do the best that we could do. And in the meantime, I mean, nothing to what you've been through, but we've suffered a lot of different things that we've gone through. And it's like, why aren't we healthy? Like, I don't understand. Like, why can't we get to the point that we have energy and we just have good health? And I
Right.
think it was just we didn't have this information. So once we got this information, and kind of, the Lord, I think, needed some time to break down all the walls and barriers, at least in my mind. I think he was there way before I was there. And it probably took at least a year or
Mhm.
so, maybe 2 years, for me to finally surrender to it, because I was just like, that's not right. That just can't be
Oh,
right. That can't be healthy. It's the opposite of what everybody says. And then the more people I saw do it longer term, I was just like, okay, well, they're getting really healthy. Like, all of their stuff's getting
I mean,
taken
what's so
care of.
fascinating is how quick it happens. And then, you know, we're kind of in a general way, we're like the opposite of you. I mean, we weren't overweight, so to speak. We weren't like overtly overweight. Um, we had no type of diagnosed health issues. We were on no kind of medication.
Right.
We did, I had all these mechanical issues
Right.
with what I thought was my neck and my back, but it was my shoulder. And so we had all these ailments, and we ate clean and we ate organic
Mhm.
and we were gluten free and we
Yeah.
were dairy free.
To everybody else, we were like the crunchy,
Yeah, we were
healthy,
like
like,
the
people,
epitome of health,
right.
even though we were probably about 20 to 30 pounds overweight,
Mhm,
each of us, but like we were just very normal in all of those
mhm.
aspects. I mean, but we were sick perpetually. And
Yeah.
your arthritis was worse and worse and worse. And
Yeah.
then that was just debilitating. So we had not a whole lot of quality of life and mental health and all of that stuff. I mean, when you're going through different things like that, it's just, and you're young still, and you have a family, it's just like, we don't have the energy to do what we want to do. And yeah, so finally I was just like, you know what? We've tried every other crazy thing under the sun. Like, why don't we just try
Just
it?
try it.
We
Yeah.
have
It's
nothing
not
to
going to hurt
lose by
anything.
trying it.
Yeah.
And so we just jumped in like cold turkey, like everything. We ate the rest of the fruit in the house first, and then we were just like all in. And I think he was really happy that I wasn't torturing him with salad every single night. I would give him like this big bowl of like all the carnivorous vegetables that are supposed to be good for you. I'd get these shredded bags of like
You just said
broccoli.
carnivorous.
Not
You meant that other C word for
cur, cur,
cruciferous or
cruciferous.
Cassiferous,
Yeah,
the word
sorry.
that means tastes
I'm
nasty.
a carnivore now, so I said carnivorous.
The word means cruciferous
Yeah,
means tastes
he would
nasty.
always push that bowl away, be like, "Don't ruin my dinner.
I'm not a
I'll save
rabbit.
this until last." But it didn't take us long. I mean, maybe the first week or two, and we were just like, wow, there's something different about this. Like, this is sustainable. Like,
Right.
this, I'm not hungry all the time. I would just be hungry all the time. Like, and even just I don't know, just wanting more and more and more sugar, like just wanting to, like, if there were pies, we didn't make one pie or two pies. We got the biggest pie pans. They're ridiculous. They're actually pizza pans. We still have them. We have 8 of them, and we would make like 8 giant pumpkin pies. And then we would eat pumpkin pie for like days, until
Right.
it was gone. And that's how we did everything, was just excessive.
But it was healthy.
Right.
That it was healthy pumpkin pie,
Yeah.
it was
Right.
paleo or whatever, and it was just crazy. Just the amount of food that we were going through as a family of 8. I mean, it was just insane. And we're still taking kids to the doctor, still having ear infections all the time,
Hmm.
and allergies, and his arthritis was getting worse and worse. And my little kids, all their dental health was like crazy. Just like, oh, he's got 40 cavities in his mouth. And I'm like,
It was
how?
crazy.
We don't eat sugar. Like, we have honey in our pumpkin pie. wine. Like we don't give them candy. We don't drink soda. We didn't do
Hmm.
all of those things, but we just had no quality of life. All of my teeth had to be redone a couple years ago, and I was very much plant-based. And even thinking back to um when we were early married, like, I'm thinking back when our son was just a baby. And remember, your mom and dad, they used to invite us over and they would have a barbecue, and they would your dad liked those Bubba burgers. So he'd get these big boxes, they were called Bubba burgers, and I would bring my little vegan, like, patty of whatever. Remember that?
Bean burger.
I would bring like these
Yes.
bean burger things. Like, I just thought, even back then, I just thought that was healthier. Like,
Yeah.
that was going to be better
Good
somehow.
marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And
It's
it,
nuts.
like you said, it is so incredible how fast it makes a difference. I thought this, if it worked, it was going to take 5 years, five,
Right.
6 years to
Exactly.
even,
Yeah.
and it didn't. It didn't take that at all. You know who Limitless Lindy is?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been, it was kind of weird. We both started our channel at the same time because we both saw Bill on Carrie's channel, right?
Oh,
And
okay. Okay.
yeah,
So
and
that was
it's
your
kind of
was that your inspiration?
it was when I saw
Cool.
Bill,
That's great.
it hit so hard because I was like, I was there just 7 months earlier, and I was like, this
Yeah.
guy. All that I
Wow.
wanted him to know was, this is not the diet that you failed your entire life. This is not a diet at all. This is the proper human diet, and it is the cure. That's literally why I called my channel the Carnivore Cure, because this isn't a fad diet. It's a cure, right? It's proper human diet. And what I wanted him to know was, because I know exactly how you don't really get excited about anything anymore, because you're just throwing wild punches at things trying to connect, but you don't really believe in any of them anymore, and it's hard to get excited about
Hmm.
anything. And I just want him to know, don't let it get in your head thinking that this is like all those other things that you've tried 1,000 times. It's okay to get excited about this and really lean into it, because this is the cure. Because I could not believe, how it gave me my life back. I didn't have a future 9 months ago. I was just hoping that I woke up the next morning to have another shot to find something that was going to make a difference. I was praying to only weigh
Mm.
500 pounds just at a chance of walking again.
Mm.
It's the deepest, darkest place I've ever been in my life. And I just wanted Bill to know, man, don't get it all in your head like this is just another thing you're going to fail. It's nothing like that. This is okay to put your faith in it. And
Mm.
so I want to
Yes.
get that out to him. And I started my channel. I made a video, and Lindy replied to it. She lost 400 pounds in like 4 months. She was losing 100 pounds a month. It is insane. Now, obviously, a ton of that was fluid, but talk about giving you your life back in just 4 months.
That's
Wow.
incredible.
Yeah, I was listening to her actually the other night. It was like last night, I think I had her on, and I love her accent. Somebody said she sounds a little bit like Mary Poppins.
Yeah,
And
she's
she
from,
does.
what is it, Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sweet, sweet woman. Yeah.
She's awesome. We
So
do a
you're
podcast
still
now.
you're
Oh, go
still
ahead.
losing like pretty much kind of like a pound a day, correct? Right now.
Yeah, like, so actually I started stalling out. I've been feeling different over about the last 6 weeks. My energy was just coming down, coming down, coming down.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And I suspected that I was under eating, and also I
Yeah.
suspected that I'd been on OMAD for so long that it was starting to hurt me, because your body adapts.
Hmm.
It's no longer,
Yeah.
when you're doing a fast so long, it's no longer a stressor on your body. And now it's just your new environment, so your metabolism lowers itself to
Yep.
basically accommodate this new normal. And I knew that, and I suspected that I was having that problem. So Limitless Lindy lost all of her weight through the steak and butter gang. They had her on a protocol. And so
Oh,
a month,
okay.
yeah. And so a month ago, I joined the steak and butter gang, and now I have a coach over there. So now I'm actually doing priming, right? So I have this
Yeah,
giant
yeah, that's
bowl of,
awesome.
of eggs and meat here. and I'm on two different things at the same time. I really want to get back into weightlifting. I used to do that when I was a kid, and I just feel like
Cool.
I've lost a
Yeah.
lot of strength. And
Hmm.
so I had a bunch of atrophy from being in that chair for over 2 years. And so I'm getting the muscle back, but I'm trying to, as soon as I get 400 pounds, that's just my mental goal. I'm going to start hitting the weights hard, but I wanted to get my
Cool.
testosterone up and to get ready for it. So I joined them, and now I'm doing priming, which is I have to eat 3 times a day, which that sounds like a great problem to have, but it's actually been one of the toughest things I've had to do because I've been so used
Right.
to eating once a day that it's been miserable. And also, eggs are a natural testosterone booster. So there's actually a well-known protocol where you eat 36 eggs a day, and they say it's actually like a steroid cycle. It's like a full gear cycle for weightlifters. So I've been eating 36 eggs a day now for the last 4 days and been eating meat, and
Whoa.
I've just been stuffed all day long. But
So
what's
how long
crazy is
is that 2 weeks that they have you on
two
for?
weeks. Yeah,
Okay,
I got to
okay.
do. Yeah, so I got to eat 3 times a day for 2 weeks. Then I got to eat 2 times a day for a week, and then I eat 2 times every other day, and then I do OMAD for a week, and then I eat one meal every other day for a week, and then you
So
keep
who's
going
your
back. And it,
coach over there?
Raymond.
Raymond. Okay, that's awesome. That's so great. Yeah.
Yep. And
I
so,
thought about that even for my husband. I was like, I think him and Raymond would get along really well. And it's just so powerful to have somebody like that to help you. So you're not just throwing mud at the wall. I mean, carnivore is very, very simple and it's not complicated for anybody who wants to get started. But once you've been into it for a while, and if you're running into any little bumps that you can't figure out, I mean, to have a coach is really awesome.
yeah, and it's just answering so many questions that I had that just things that I was like, I think this is happening, but I'm not sure.
Right.
Like, I don't do good on chicken. Don't know why. It just doesn't make me
Hmm.
feel good. So I don't eat chicken. They said, yep, that's a thing a lot of people have. Also, I know that this is taboo subject in the carnivore world, but I don't feel that great when I eat bacon, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
still
Okay.
doing it a little bit, but I feel like a superhero when I eat ribeye and eggs. When I
Red
eat
beef.
ribeye and
Yeah.
eggs,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel the only thing that gives me about as much energy as ribeye and beef and red meat, and I even feel really good on lamb, but really, really good on beef, but also is raw salmon for some reason. If I get a fatty piece of raw salmon like sashimi, I get great amounts of energy on that. And I don't know if it's
Mm.
just because my body breaks it down, absorbs it quicker or what, but those two things make me feel fantastic. So that's what I lean into the most.
That's great.
Well, the other interesting thing is once you realize where your energy is coming from, you're so much more perceptive to that. Like I'm totally aware now that what I'm eating is a directly correlated with my health. And so I'm going to pay attention when I eat it. And I'm eating so simplistically. Like it
Mhm.
isn't this crazy complicated thing. There aren't any uh, quadratic formulas that you have to do. There's not this enormous plethora of stuff in bags with 40 ingredients or anything that's highly
Right.
processed or the seed oil. So like in in essence, I mean, maybe you're eating five different things, right? So then you're going to be way more perceptive like, hey, wait a minute, I felt really great today. Well, what did I eat today? Oh, today I only ate this and this. So, that's what works for me. And by having this simplistic diet and understanding how that's the other thing that's amazing is how quickly it impacts you,
Yeah.
right? Because like the positive, just like the negative factors, but the positive factors impact you so quickly that by the next day you can perceive it and say, oh yeah, it's the ribeye, right? It was the ribeye. And so if I do that again and have the same result, I'm going to do that for 10 days. And if I have the same result for 10 days, I've just solved the riddle because everybody's different, right? Like you said with the bacon, like when we raise our own cows and pigs, and we had an enormous amount of pork in the freezer with the beef. So when we started carnivore, we were probably eating about half and half,
Yeah.
maybe
Like,
even a little bit more pork than beef, just because we had so much in the freezer.
yeah, to go through. Yeah.
And as we kept feeling better and better, I said, you know what? I don't want the pork. Like, I
Mhm.
want the red meat.
Mhm.
And so the next time when we go to restock the freezer, let's cut out the pork and just drop some cows in the freezer. And I mean, and we still occasionally have bacon,
Mhm.
but yeah, I definitely noticed that the red meat was the key. And that I actually, what happened for me is I started to not like the taste of pork. Is what happened to
Yeah,
me.
and I think it's funny because, I mean, in the beginning, eat whatever meats, this is what I say, eat
Yeah,
whatever meats. There's lots of creatures that God created on this earth that are running
Absolutely.
around. Eat them. I think somebody said if it had a mama, you can eat it. So if it had a mama with
Right.
a face, you can eat it. So eat, eat all of the things that you enjoy. Just eat them until you're satisfied and whatever. And the bacon kept everybody excited. Like, it was important to keep the morale up in the beginning, especially for all the kids. And we were switching over from a highly plant based diet, which was very, very simplistic and boring, but it was still highly plant based. And it was what they were used to, meat and eggs. And, we didn't do dairy. So there was no fun with cheese or anything like that. So, yeah, there was no like, now we can have yogurts or, there wasn't like
Right.
anything exciting for kids there. But the bacon was exciting. So if you have a family and you're watching this, um,
Yeah.
you have to do things that are going to keep.
and I craved that fat in the bacon. I do know that for an absolute fact, and I still do. When I eat that bacon, I'm like, yes,
Right.
yeah, like
But we
I
get
need
it
the
like
fat.
once or twice a month
Hmm.
now. It's
Yeah,
like a
Yeah.
special day. I mean, we just kind of had it all the time for everybody. And then, little by little,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
just
that
phased
bowl I
out.
just showed you has got bacon and sausage in it, and it's because
Oh,
I'm like, I gotta eat something that's gonna get me excited about eating this
yeah.
third meal
right.
because
Yeah,
I cannot
exactly.
white knuckle another one. You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally get it. I'm almost always nervous on my channel to tell people that I really only eat eggs and beef and salt because it feels so restrictive, and that's not the message I want to get out
Sure,
there.
exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like eat
That's
whatever
right.
it
Get on the
takes.
wagon. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
do it. Whatever. It's just that I'm far enough
That's right.
along now that I'm really able to listen to keys from my body,
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
what it wants and what's like optimal. But until you
Mhm.
get clean and you're kind of off the addictive cycles,
That's right.
you're you're not going to be able to pick up those cues from your body. Like this is just like fine tuning now,
Yep.
and
Right.
like I love it. But don't feel like you got to do that. People are always asking me, well, I can't afford to do grass fed, grass finished beef. I'm like, who cares? Eat
That's
spam. I
right.
don't care what
Yeah,
you
for
eat.
That's
real.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, like
What
just
else?
do it.
Yeah, and what else is fascinating is that we all become nutritional experts for ourselves
That's
because
right.
Yeah,
you're eating this simplistic diet and you're feeling these impacts. You're feeling the positive and the negative impacts, and you're
Mhm.
like, "Hey, man, if I tweak this, and we're a family of 8, and we all have
Yep.
different preferences. Hey, look, I don't
Mhm.
want that. I'm going to do it like this.
That's
Um,
right.
I mean, my burgers, I could, if I could get away with it, I would splash that thing on I could eat that. I could eat burger meat raw if
Uh-huh.
the
right,
fat content was high
And
enough.
not I want them done. I want them
Yeah.
done, and I'll
right.
slather a big thing of butter on it, but he doesn't do good with the butter. So,
Yeah. I have an allergic response to butter. I would love to
yeah.
be able to
Yeah.
have the butter,
But
but
butter is my topping. Like, we
oh,
had the
yeah, it's
sauces.
incredible.
That's one thing that we kept in the beginning to keep all the
Yeah.
campers
Yeah,
happy. There you go.
yeah. And
That
and
butter
what's
will
funny
travel.
is I've never eaten cold butter like you see people taking bites out. I never did it till priming. They're like, just try it, see it, and I'm like, the idea of that made me like get watery in my mouth, like I was gonna throw up to think about eating a bite of butter. And
Uh-huh.
first time I did, it must have just been my head because it made me nauseous to chew up a whole piece of butter. But now it only took 3 days because after I did that the first time, I had more mental energy than I've had in a long time. And I was
Yeah.
like, I
Oh,
will
good.
be danged. That's real. I could not believe that that was real. So now with every meal, I mean, 2 ounces of cold butter first thing before I
Did
even eat
you
the
did
meal.
you see Sean Baker's video today about being the butter taster? And then
Oh
it's
yeah, I did.
hilarious.
Because
Yeah.
what was he was like a stamp flicker or something before, and then
Yeah.
he got a new job or something.
He was a
Yeah,
professional butter taster.
yeah, professional
Oh, that
butter taster.
they are awesome. I love
Yeah.
those videos.
Oh, and hey,
Yeah.
y'all, if just we have a podcast called the Fearless Podcast, and we're going to be having Dr. Sean Baker on the podcast. Well, we'll record Wednesday, so it'll go out shortly after that. So if you aren't
That's awesome.
subscribed to the Fearless Podcast, definitely check out the links below. We're on your favorite podcatcher, so subscribe, and
Right.
that's coming soon. And we just had an awesome interview with Matthew Ehret. That was great, and we have
Good.
lots of cool interviews lined up.
Yeah. So I have a question for you because this is what I see, over and over again. People say like they almost set themselves up for failure by I think it's just lack of preparing. But like so with social situations, like you're going to church, there's food, you go to a birthday party, you go to family get-togethers. Like what has been your plan for success? How have you approached those things and succeeded with them?
Well, I'm kind of ornery when it comes to that. If people need me to risk killing myself, I mean, I came from the grave, so if you need me to, step a foot back in that so you can feel comfortable about my diet, then we don't need to hang out, basically, is how
Mm-hmm.
that works.
Right.
But as far as my family goes, my sister's carnivore now, my brother's carnivore now, my mom's carnivore now. So
Wow.
That's
my
awesome.
sister had lap band and ate through it. She was
Mm-hmm.
scared to
Mm.
death, but she was one of the people helping me, right? Get the carnivore food, and she thought I was crazy, but I did it. She saw the difference. She was scared to death to get off of carbs and sugar, and now it's been 4.5 months. She's down 51 pounds. Her hips work, so much better,
Wow,
and now
that's
she
great.
can't stop talking about carnivore. My brother,
That is great.
like when my brother got diagnosed with MS 15 years ago, and he's been fighting a bunch of neurological diseases, and he has spinal stenosis, and he's one of the hardest working people I've ever seen in my life. He didn't have a weight problem. Maybe a little when he was a kid, maybe he was up to like 230 pounds or something when he was 25 or something, but he's also a stocky guy. Never really had a huge weight problem, but he had these neurological problems. And now he feels better than he has ever, and he's all carnivore.
Wow.
Wow.
I've got my mom on carnivore, and this is why I know her biggest thing was she was fighting the Diet Coke addiction. So she's been on that same lemonade now that I was making for, I think this is her 7th week on it. And I just asked her yesterday morning, I said, "So do you crave Diet Coke anymore?" She goes, "Well, if I think about it, it sounds like it would taste good, but I no longer think about it. I don't wake up wanting it anymore."
Wow. Yeah, that's
So,
great.
so that really worked.
Wow.
And she's 84. She's got Parkinson's and a brain tumor. And she
Mm.
lost
Wow.
weight her whole life. And she had gastric bypass surgery and ate through it. Now she feels better. She has no more cravings. She's getting better and better every day. She's putting
Wow,
Wow.
muscle
that's
on.
awesome.
I fight. She can't eat very much because she had the gastric bypass. So I got to feed her many, many times a day. But man, it was hard because she's not always mom with the Parkinson's.
Sure.
Sometimes she slips out. And so
Yeah.
when she was having those problems, she would fight me on it and she'd get real angry about it. But that's just, I knew that wasn't her.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to fight through it. But now finally, it's been about, I guess it's been about 10 weeks. And finally, I just noticed she's calmed way down. She's not having
Oh,
these
wow.
switching in and out, and she's not fighting me anymore. She's not
Wow.
hungry. She's just totally happy now, sleeping
Wow.
better.
That's good.
It's been great. So in my immediate family, nobody fights me. They can't. They know I was about dead, and now they see what it's done. And so now it's
Mm.
all just changing their minds. Now, my friends and stuff and coworkers and stuff, they'll give me a little bit of hard time. But my favorite thing to do to them is you know, we'll sit down, we'll eat, we'll have a, whatever birthday dinner, something, right? They'll all give me a hard time about what I'm eating. They're just, they're just rubbing me just for fun. And then after it's over, though, they're all sitting there holding their gut, burping,
They feel terrible.
talking about how they feel like crap. And that's when I just start dropping elbows on them because I'm like, you know what? How's your great diet doing for you? How's that, that healthy food that you got to have? It's just making you miserable. I'm not sitting here, turning green and feeling terrible. It's hilarious now. I actually enjoy that time to give them a hard time. So,
That's awesome. That is great. Yeah, I was listening to Dr. Shafee probably about a week ago, and I just told my husband this today that his dad actually has Parkinson's. He was mentioning
mhm,
it on a live stream, and he had encouraged his dad, I don't know when, but probably a while back, and to just, he should really consider, a really clean keto diet or carnivore diet. And his dad said that makes sense because his dad's a doctor too. And he said, oh, yeah, because of my brain health, Parkinson's, it's brain, and, that would help. And he said, his Parkinson's is still there, but his quality of life is so much better, and the symptoms are so lessened than what they were. So,
yeah.
so that was just really good.
That's what I'm hoping for mom. I said,
Yeah.
I don't know that this will cure you. I don't know if it can, but I do know, this was something that dawned on me, or finally I decided to face when I was so sick. Was I used to think that not eating the foods that I wanted, that was the struggle, that was the sacrifice, that was suffering. And then what I realized was that wasn't suffering. That's the easy part. Because if I choose to eat the wrong thing and give into that small sacrifice every time, and just do the easy thing in that moment, I'm struggling to make the rest of my day a little bit worse in every area, from breathing to sleeping to even
Hmm.
standing up, even taking a shower, going to the bathroom. I've just made that incrementally worse.
Hmm.
And so by making the right decision on what I was eating, doing what I believe was going to make a difference, I was making all those other things incrementally better. And we think in our mind that that's going to take too long to make a difference. Well, we all got in our bad health situations by making ourselves incrementally worse every day. And now it's this
That's right.
giant monster. So those little things add up and they make a big, big difference.
That's
So
right.
every time
Yeah.
I eat, I'm always thinking, I can choose to make my whole life a little bit better right now, or I can choose to make it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Like
That's
that's
right.
what's always on my mind. So that's what I told my mom. We might not be able to cure it, but I know we can make your situation better every day by doing this right.
That's
So
right.
Yeah. That's
let's see how
awesome.
good you can feel. Let's see how good we can get you because we got nothing to
Hmm.
lose, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah. And how
that's right.
neat is it that you can help your mom through all that? And, you know, it's so powerful that that you've actually, your family has saw what amazing, miraculous results that you've had, and they almost have to do it because it's so um, impressive that they're like, well, you know, the
Hmm.
proof's in the pudding. That's
That's right.
always the biggest thing for me. And every now and then you get these crazy comments or whatever about, yeah, your arteries are going to clog and all this stuff, but which is kind of weird
Right.
because, like, why would you want somebody to be unhealthy or whatever? But there's such a tsunami of carnivores, and then there's this whole weird correlation too with social media
Hmm.
and carnivores interacting, and it really becomes kind of like insurmountable
Right.
to like to have these talking points to say, oh yeah, that's going to work for 8 months, but then, and now we have people, and we're finding out we have people that have been eating this way for 30 years,
Hmm.
like Maggie in Canada, and
Hmm.
she looks like she's like 50 years
Yeah.
old, and she's 80, and it's just like, yeah,
Hmm.
well, here's some, I like, one, why does she look incredible and like she bathes in the fountain of youth? And then two, how come she's not dead?
Mhm.
because
Right.
her arteries should be clogged and her body should have given up from
Right.
by now, and her liver, ketosis should have ruined her liver by now.
Right. And then when you just see, I mean, it's not just the physical things, but just all of the other things that come from carnivore. I mean, like me and you worked outside all day today. We worked
Mhm.
outside from first thing in the morning until, well, I was late to this live stream. So it was like I just quick got showered up and then came and sat down with you. But we worked outside all day long.
Mhm.
And before, would that have happened with me?
No, well, with me, I mean, I would be incapacitated. Like I just would be in so much pain that not only would I not be able to work all day, I'd have to come in, lay down in the recliner, and sleep probably for an hour or so,
Yeah.
just from the pain,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because
No.
the pain would tire me out. Like, just the radiating pain would
Right.
just,
And you couldn't do anything out there
yeah. And I
anyway.
couldn't sleep at night. So I was, and I was doing everything with one arm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
the arthritis was so bad. And then for me, it was just the mental, like, and I had no energy. I had zero energy. I was beyond exhausted. And I had so no motivation to do anything. And then if I went outside, I had not really much strength or I just it was just worthless. Like I would go out and maybe like putz around for 5 minutes and just come back in the house because I mean, I would look at all the projects to do and be like, well, can't do any of that. And I have no energy to do any of it, no
I
strength
know.
to do any of it. And now, I mean, just in the past month, now that the weather's cooled down under 100 degrees, we're like, I mean, every weekend we're out there working, and just getting projects done and doing things. It's like, this isn't, I mean, our older boys have always been like that. But for me and him, that is not the normal for me and
Yeah.
him. It's just
Right.
not like, I just feel like that's a new normal.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that term, but
No, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that constant pain, I mean, I could tell you all the things that hurt when I was overweight. My back, my ankles, my knees, my shoulders, just everything was just miserable, right? And I don't have any of that pain, and I would have to peel myself out of bed. I would literally just be thinking things, and this was even before I was stuck in a chair, right? But I would just when I was going to work every day, I'd have to be like, I'd have to do things by the hour, like just get to the shower, just get to the shower, and
Mm-hmm.
things will be better. And then it was like, just get in the car, get to work. Just get through the morning meeting with the guys and get to your office chair. And I mean, I lived an hour by an hour because just even taking on the whole 10-12 hour day was just overwhelming. Like, how am I going to get from here to there feeling this tired and this miserable? It was just, I mean, I did that for 10 years,
Mm.
just that miserable every day. And now, I mean, I can't sleep more than 6 hours a night. I mean, my head pops off the pillow and it's like, well, let's go. What's going on? It's just, I'm just like, this is how we're supposed to feel. We are supposed
Yeah.
to thrive. We're not
that's
supposed to
right.
be defeated with this sickness. I mean, we just been poisoned. We're just been
Yeah.
poisoned for our
That's
whole
all.
life,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And you're still plenty young enough. I mean, it's just going to snowball. It's just going to get better and better every month, every year. It's just going to continue. You're just going to be a new person.
I can't even believe just in the last 4 days how much more strength and energy I have just on this priming protocol. I was like, yep, I was under eating.
You're under
Because, I
eating.
mean, right now I just feel like I want to grab heavy things and throw them around, and I can't even tell you why. I guess it's the eggs. I don't know, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't felt like that in years. And I'm just like, I just want to grab something heavy and jerk it around. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, when your testosterone levels get right too, that affects everything. That's going to affect your sleep. It's going to affect your hormones, which regulate everything in your body. So, I mean, everything's going to be functioning better. So,
Right.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I swear it's happening to me right now. I mean, just I can't even explain it, but just my arms and my chest muscles, just everything feels good to like tension up right now and just
Mm-hmm.
grab something that weighs a lot. And that's not been me for like 10, 15 years. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what is going on right now?
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
that's great.
you were what, 2 weeks in? And he's like, I feel so good. I'm going to do a push up. And I'm like, Oh no. You're gonna hurt yourself.
You know,
Like, don't.
I used to do intensive weight
Right.
training 6 days a week since I was like 18 till
Right.
finally the arthritis got me. I mean, I was
The
still
last 8 years, the arthritis has been crippling,
right, but
like
I was
just
still
bad.
going to the gym until about 12 months, until right before the shoulder surgery. I was still going to the gym.
Sure, but you
Yeah.
weren't doing much.
No,
I
I
mean, you
wasn't
were
doing
saying you
nothing.
were on the old man protocol.
Yeah,
You
I was
went to
just
like
doing a lot of stretching, a lot
stretch.
of push-ups.
Yeah.
And I still had quite a bit of my muscular size, but after, so I'm missing the head of my shoulder is like 40% smaller than what it should be, and I'm missing like 30 or 40% of my labrum. And when they cleaned out all the scar tissue, like, it makes it feel like my shoulder's going to fall out of socket. Like I can feel the head hit the, and so I had arthroscopic done, and they're like, well, you need a new shoulder. So what do you want us to tell you? So, and then I had stem cell, which was great, took away all the pain. But I knew, I'm like, here's what I know. I know all of the scar tissue is going to come back. Why wouldn't it come back? You know, they didn't.
Right.
So the scar tissue is going to come back. It's going to start putting pressure on the nerve in my armpit again. It's going to radiate up through my neck. And so like, I feel I'm pain free now, but it's all going to come back, you know? And then the other thing they did,
Where did you get your stem cells?
right here in Dallas.
Yeah, and they got him
How
from
long
his
ago?
hip. They pulled it out
So
of his hip.
yeah, and I would, anybody considering stem cells, Donnie Buford is like world renowned, and he's in Dallas. People fly in all the time. He is absolutely the best.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going back after a year because I want to talk to him about
Yeah.
carnivore and have him
Did they
retest me.
did they put it in locally or did they put it in the blood?
No, they put it, so they use, and he uses an ultrasound, and he strategically put it in two different parts of my shoulder.
Right.
So
So my
yeah, so
brother
he,
just had stem cells because he's got spinal stenosis,
okay,
and
yeah, yeah.
he got adjusted, but he put it in his back locally, and he said his back's like 90% better. It was incredible for him.
It is, it's incredible.
It is. But what's cool, I don't know if this is true or not. So we were gonna go to the Panama Stem Cell Institute, and because they can put it in the blood there, so it hits
Okay.
everything and it saturates everything. Plus, they identified a certain protein marker that they claim is like the Superman protein stem cell that is just like it just works better than, like they said that sometimes when they used to give stem cells, they were hit or miss. They would either work or they wouldn't. And then they're able to identify this certain protein marker that they knew that every time they got a large portion of these particular stem cells, everybody had huge results, right? So
Hmm.
in Panama, they started being able to isolate these specific protein markers and create like a super stem cell kind of injection that they'd put in.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going to go do that, but he just wanted to try it because it's like 30 some grand to get it there. It was like
Mm-hmm.
9,000 for him to get it here in our
Mm-hmm.
town. But when he was talking to that fella, he said that then this he got it 6 months ago, and he said within about 3 months that here in the United States they'll be able to now put it in your blood, but they
Hmm.
can't yet isolate that. They can't yet isolate those proteins. That's one thing they won't let you do in America, but they're hoping that that comes soon. And I guess that it's going to be a game changer when they can isolate that protein and put it in the blood.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be like fantastic. So we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen there. So just like your shoulder, I had knee surgery, and my doctor, when I was 34, said you need a new knee. You're just going to have to
Mm-hmm.
get one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm planning on going through several, like 2 or 3 cycles, and even if I have to go to Panama to do it, I'm going to do it there. But when I get all this weight off, I'm planning on getting this weight off in the next 18 months. And then I'm going to do one stem cell cycle. And then about 3 months later, I'm going to go get my first skin surgery. So hopefully the stem cells will help heal the skin
Mm-hmm.
scars faster because it takes about 3 to 6 months before the stem cells start working. And then I'm going to hit that. And then me and my brother are going to go in. We're buying a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. so that we can keep getting in the hyperbaric oxygen chamber because that'll boost those stem cells about 600%, the ones that
Mm,
you got. And it's supposed to make it a lot better. So both of me and him are
hmm.
going to try to repair our tissue through that before I do something stupid with a knee surgery or something like that. It's just
Yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah,
But
Yeah. Because
absolutely.
when they did my arthroscopic, he took my bicep tendon to create room in my shoulder. They take it
mm,
and they put it down here. So I'm still recovering from that. But listening. But so um, like 2 weeks in, now I couldn't do any kind of push up. I couldn't do a sissy push up. I couldn't do an elevated
Yeah,
push up.
and you couldn't do like fine motor things
Yeah, I couldn't do
either.
fine motor
Like,
skills with
so
my left hand
yeah,
because it's all in your shoulder, everything with your like trying to take a lid off a jar and all that stuff. um
mm.
but yeah, I was joking around and I was like, I feel so good I could do a push-up, and I dropped on the floor and I did like, I don't know, did I do like 10 or 20
I
strict
don't. I
push-ups?
looked away. I was just. I was just hoping and
And
praying we weren't going to end up in the hospital. I was just so scared because he's just been so suffering for so many years with this arthritis stuff. And I'm like, you're going to hurt yourself, But he felt so good. That was the point, because you're
yeah,
like, I want to pick something up and throw it. Like, that's what he was like. I feel so good. This was 2 weeks in. He was like, I'm just going to do a push up. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. But yeah. And then
yeah,
ever
now I do
since.
sets of 40. I do like 3 or 4 sets of 40 every day. And I can't do everything yet with my shoulder. I don't know if I will. I kind of, that's why I want to talk to Dr. Baker and Dr. Shafee, because I know Dr. Shafee has claimed that people's labrums and stuff has regrown. Obviously it takes a really
Yeah.
long time for it to degenerate and deteriorate. um Now, what's interesting about
The stem cell came out of your own body. Like, just to
Mhm.
be clear for anybody who's watching this, because
Yeah, they
if
took it out of
you're
my hip. That was
right,
a great experience.
right,
That was fun.
it's invasive. It's invasive, y'all.
It
So
didn't hurt, but it didn't feel good.
yeah, it it left a scar mentally for me.
Yeah.
I was in the room, but but it was totally worth it, and the
Yes.
pain wasn't much of anything
But
afterwards.
what they describe with the stem cell is, they said, it'll take about a month to kick in, and then you'll have continuous healing for 3 to 6 months, and then you'll plateau. And the hope is that um that will last for 3 to 5 years until you get your next treatment, and it'll only freeze and stabilize what you got. So one thing that happened literally the day before we went carnivore is when I was laying in bed, because when you're that debilitated for such a long time and you feel all these different weird things, like you're a little bit paranoid. And I was feeling this burning pain in my armpit. And I'm like, man, that feels like that nerve, like something's putting pressure on that nerve. And that was the nerve that would like just cripple me up. And that was the day before we went carnivore. And I've had, not only have I not felt that again, but I continue to progress physically and can do more and more with my left hand and my left
Yeah.
arm, and dig and
That's awesome.
do all the other
You're
stuff.
doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, you're just picking up big, heavy things and moving things, and
Mhm.
just, I mean, it's just a whole new person. Like, I mean, and it's
Totally.
just been 5 months. Like, it's crazy. And we're getting ready to go away. We're going on a cruise again, Lord willing, if the world
World
holds
doesn't
it
end.
together for a few more months. I don't know.
Mhm.
We're going to be going on a cruise again. And last year when we went, it was really hard because you were just mainly in bed.
I was
Like,
just off of stem cell. Yeah, I just
yeah.
gotten the stem cell.
And he just was in the room most of the time, just laying there watching a show or something. And, I mean, you ate dinner with us and,
Mhm.
did a little bit of stuff with us, but mainly, and I just kept encouraging him, just saying, it doesn't matter, you're here. That's the whole point. You got to come, because he's missed out on a lot of trips and
Mhm.
family vacations and just visiting family, because he's in so much pain. He cannot even sit in the car to go anywhere, even if somebody else is driving. So I'm like, it doesn't matter. At least you're here. And now this year when we go, it's
Different
like,
story.
we're going to actually like enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and we enjoyed our family last year, but this year it's just going to be totally different.
Yeah, just nothing's gonna hold you back this time. Like I
Yeah.
totally get
Yeah.
that. And that's what I've been saying. I'm just, I know there's a lot of great doctors out there, and most of them care, and they just basically they're being lied to like the rest of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
they've been even indoctrinated and trained that way, so they
Yeah.
really, really believe in it. So I get it, but it does get frustrating, man, when you realize how much quality of life for so long for 74% of the American population has just lost to this nonsensical lie because the
Yeah.
cure is so simple and so quick,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
infuriating sometimes, but I don't know. I have a lot of hope of how fast this message is going to spread because how could you put a lid on this? If anybody feels it for themselves, there's nothing realer than this that I've ever seen. There's nothing more effective, nothing so simple. I know, it sounds restrictive when you first hear it, but it's the most freeing, simple thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it just cuts you loose from all the cravings, and all of a sudden food is not like this cycle that you have to go through every day that just bombards you. It's I love fasting because you know how nice it is to only eat a steak a day and only dirty one pan. It's
Yeah.
Right.
it's
And
so
isn't it
awesome.
isn't it interesting and neat? You've done so many diets, right? And you are still addicted to food. And you've done every diet under the sun, and the end of the day, you are still addicted in a harmful way, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you're addicted to red meat, like
Good on you.
what's so wrong with that? Yeah. But it really does show you that, well, and we know that the slow kill and the industrialization of our food system and the toxification, the on purpose poisoning of our food system is that addiction. That's where that
Mhm.
addiction comes from. The
Mhm.
processed sugar and all of the other um, ingredients, chemicals that they put in the food, put in the Oreos to make them like crack.
Mhm.
That is all
Mhm.
part of that addiction cycle. And, until you break that, you really can't see it. And this was the only way of eating so far in your adult life. And so far in my adult life that I've experienced where that addiction gets broken.
Right. It's self-regulating.
Yeah.
And it helps you with everything else. Like I had an extremely addictive personality for a lot of things. So when I was young, I had a pretty terrible gambling addiction because in our state, every gas station and bar and restaurant's a casino in our state. So it was just around you the whole time, and I got wrapped up in that, and that was still in my mind all the time, nagging away. But um, and I kept it pretty well under control, but it was still there. Now that's gone. And what I realized is when my mind healed and my hormones healed and everything, I think that has a ton to do with that addiction because, I quit gambling, quit smoking, all these things, and nothing was harder to quit than the soda addiction. It was
Yeah.
just ridiculous. In
Wow.
fact, next week I've got one more bad habit, which is Copenhagen, you know, and I'm finally throwing that. I've been doing that since I was 14. That's going out the window next week because now I love
Wow. Awesome,
the
man.
That's
fact,
awesome.
yeah, that I can tackle everything that had a hold on me, and now I just know that it never gets to have that hold on me again. And I swear that's something chemically, mentally, something that is healed because I have way less of an addictive personality now across the board. You know what I mean?
Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's just a
absolutely.
dopamine. It's just must be a receptor thing. And once that's satiated and satisfied, there's just not any kind of,
Yeah.
need to fill that
Yeah, because
addiction craving.
whatever I whatever that was, whatever that really addictive part of me was, and everything that I did, it was linked to how I dealt with stress, like cortisol.
Right.
If
Yeah.
if I wanted to go on a bender, all I had to do was get stressed and not get good sleep, and that would send me on a bender of something like you were just looking for something to make you feel good finally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had many of those things. Luckily, I knew that about myself, so I never got close to any drugs or even alcohol. I never drank, and I stayed away from that because I thought I'd be just off the wagon alcoholic if I
Sure.
ever let something like
Hmm.
that get a hold
Wow.
of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, oh, I'm finally in a place where none of this stuff gets to dominate me anymore. And I can't tell you why I know that so clearly, but I just know it in the core of my being that, yeah, nothing gets to have that control anymore.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's amazing. I mean, as Christians, it's just like, you know, how perfect God's design is that, he created these animals, right? He created chickens to lay eggs. He created beef, cows, right? And all the different things, bison, goats, sheep, right? You could eat any of those um, ruminant animals, right? For and non-ruminant animals too, but I'm just saying for our purposes, right? For you know, being a carnivore, the most nutritious carnivore stuff, right? Is those things. And and they're self-regulating. They help your brain to balance out so you're not dealing, maybe you're just stronger mentally, you're stronger and you're firing on all your cylinders, so that way when those temptations come up, you're like, nah, I'm don't need that, like I'm in control of that. I'm not diminishing the Holy Spirit and what the Lord can do and his work, but it's when like his people, we fail and fail and fail at these things, and then food
Well, yeah,
helps
and
us.
it's usually due to lack of knowledge. That's what the scriptures say.
Totally.
And it's due to lack of knowledge, and it's also just due to just not being sober, right? The Bible tells us be
Mhm.
sober and vigilant, right?
Mhm,
Your devil's as a roaring
mhm,
lion, being sober. Well, there's all different kinds of sober, right? Soberness of mind, clarity, which, means obviously also as well, don't be drunk.
mhm,
Right. And
What did
I'm
you
going
guys?
to, at the risk of being a little preachy here, there's something that I really truly believe that I feel like was kind of a revelation when I was going through this. So, not to get in the weeds or anything, but you know, I love reading the Book of Enoch, even though it's not a canonized book of the Bible. It is historically accurate, according to the same priests that were canonizing all the books of the Bible. And what I find really interesting about that, how they talk to the fallen angels in that book. If
Hmm. Hmm.
take it for what it's worth, but they showed him metal clergy and all these things. When they got to the angel that showed him pharmakia, which was our pharmacy, which was treating,
Hmm.
you know, with drugs,
Drugs. Yeah.
they called it sorcery, right?
Yeah.
They linked.
mhm,
Hmm.
They said pharmakia was sorcery. So that was one
Yeah.
thing. I believe that you have a spirit. You are a spirit. You have a soul, and you live in a body. And I believe that soul is your mind and your mind's eye. And I think that the devil likes to use things like chemicals, drugs, to break down that communication with your spirit. I think that's like your
Hmm.
link to God.
mhm,
And I think that's what clicked with me when you're talking about being sober in all those areas. I think
Yeah.
what the Bible is talking about is be clean in mind, so you have this strong link between your soul and your spirit. And
Yeah.
so that you get you have that quickening of your spirit with the Holy Spirit. That's what I think, anyways.
Well, yeah, and that same word pharmakia is in the book of Revelation where it says they repented not of their sorceries, and it talks about the rich men and the merchants of the earth and how um they ate sumptuously, right, with the beast and the beast system, and every government is always referenced as a beast. So you have this public private partnership of the beast and the top one percenters, and you have their sorcery, and they trafficked, right? They trafficked in these things, and it's all, and that, as Christians, the saddest part is this whole aversion to recognizing food as the number one drug, right? And it's real easy to like slam the drunk guy. It's real easy to slam the cokehead and the guy that's shooting up heroin or methamphetamines or fentanyl. And don't be like that. But that Debbie's snack cake
Right.
is just a Christianized version of fentanyl. I mean, okay, so it won't kill you immediately, but 50 years from now, it will have effectively destroyed your life and the quality of life and all of that. And the reality is that people love that more than just wanting to feel well so that they can
Right.
do well.
I
And
know.
Right.
Sean Baker
it's
hit me
very
so hard the other day on one of his videos where he was talking about doing an amputation on a diabetic. And I mean, he did it so well, but he was talking about how, he cut this guy's leg off and he said it's all, he goes, I never got used to it. There'd be this eerie sound when I dropped the leg into this bucket and this sack on the floor and it'd make this thump. And I just threw this man's body in the garbage. And he
Mm.
said, but when that guy woke up, I'm like, is there anything we can do to help you not lose your other leg, and help you a diet? And he goes, no, he said that guy had thanked him because he felt so much better without the leg. He thanked him for cutting off his leg. And then he told him there was no hope. He was too addicted to sugar. This is a guy that
Mm.
just lost a leg
Mm.
and he still couldn't,
mm,
he still was right from
Mm.
losing a leg. He thanked him because he felt better by taking the leg and said, I can't
mm,
quit
Mm.
sugar. I'm going to lose the other leg.
mm.
Oh, yeah. It's it's so underestimated,
Yeah.
I think. And I was listening to Kelly Hogan the other day, and it was an old interview that she did with her husband, and they were in a conversation, and she said, "It's not that I have like conquered this thing with food. It's not like I have all this self-control now, and I have all this willpower now, and I can just choose and I can moderate and I can do." So it's not that. Like I still me, like I don't have all of that. So, but eating this way eliminates all of that. Like it just eliminates all that decision. Like if given the opportunity, I wouldn't have willpower.
Right,
If the kids baked 8 pumpkin pies tonight, it would be really hard. I mean, okay, it wouldn't have the control over us that it used to have,
Mm.
but it would be difficult. Like, it's not that we've come to this certain level and like, oh, now we can just moderate and no, it's not that. It's
Right.
because I had all these problems with food. I removed all of those temptations. This is now my diet. And then it just by default, it looks
right,
like I have self-control, but I don't.
right. I know. I got to say that too. I got to double down on that because I get all these comments and they say, "You're so strong, man. The stuff that you did and the things you went through. Oh, you're so strong." I'm like, "No, I'm not. The thing is, this diet is so effective. The proper human diet,
Right.
God's system,
Exactly.
is so effective. I'm not strong. That's how I got here
Yeah.
because I'm not strong. Like
Yeah.
I was a slave to this addiction, and this is not a testament to me at all. This is a testament to God, the design that He built us in, and His proper human diet that He gave us. And I also tell people, I know I have a carnivore channel, so I talk about carnivore, but sometimes I feel like I give it too much credit because before I did carnivore, when I was sick that year that I was looking for answers, I was on my knees in prayer the whole time. I was praying to
Mm.
God that He could bring me something. So
Mm.
God first by 110%. I would be remiss to say that the things, God brought me these answers through YouTube videos showing me the thing
Mhm.
one at a time. I would
Mhm.
go to bed having a question and there'd be a new video in my, suggested videos on YouTube that would answer that question every time. And that happened. I used to call my sister and go, "You're not going to believe it. I went to bed thinking about this and there was a video just speaking to that the next morning."
That's
That went on
awesome.
for a year. So
Wow.
I know that these were revelations. I know that I was in a downward spiral, and the blessing that came out of this was God got me to my knees in a quiet place where He could have my full attention, and He
Mhm.
got it, and He turned everything around in 9 months. Absolutely.
Wow.
It's just amazing.
Powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Well, this has been really awesome, and we could probably
Talk
yak
till
all
midnight.
night.
Yes.
But Todd, for all the folks on our channel, just tell everyone where they can find you to follow you on this like incredibly rapid health journey that you are on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on YouTube at The Carnivore Cure. I'm on Instagram at The Carnivore Cure. And I'm on X, or formerly known as Twitter, at Carnivore Cure. So you can reach me in any of those places, mostly Instagram and YouTube, though. I am starting to stream over to Rumble because of YouTube's politics. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we might
We're
get in trouble.
streaming live to Rumble right now.
We might get in trouble for this one, y'all.
Yeah, this one might have had
This one
some.
might this one might have put us over the edge.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Todd.
It's okay.
My bad,
It,
but
it won't be the first time.
No, we've already had 5 strikes. We're more than used to it. So,
That's
and
right.
I went to YouTube reprogramming school. So now
did you
our
see
our
Dr.
warnings.
Peterson there?
Yeah, our warning was getting ready to fall off. But thanks, Todd. That's
No, I hear ya. I pray someday that we can all switch over to Rumble so much that it
I
hits
hope
YouTube
so.
right in the pocketbook that they can straighten themselves out and stop
that
being
would
the
be
word
great.
police.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be great.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and for all of y'all watching on Todd channel, we are the Texas Boys, and that includes their Texas mother. So that's Faith. I'm TD, and you can check us out at the Texas Boys on YouTube and Rumble, and check out the Fearless podcast on your podcatchers. And if you're looking for any kind of cool stuff, you can go to TheTexasBoys.com. Also, if you're local and looking for beef or pork, we should be taking deposits again soon, within the next 30 days. So if you're in Northeast Texas, check us out. And it has been a blast. And thanks so much, Todd, for coming on tonight. That was great.
Thank
Don't
you very
forget
much
to
for having
go
me.
subscribe to
Yeah.
the Carnivore Cure.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm
Yes.
definitely, I am overwhelmed with how many awesome people have already followed me. I was just 7-8 weeks ago. I made a video. I didn't have 1 subscriber. I'm like, well, this is going to go to the ether. Nobody's going to see this. But it's been amazing. I love all you guys, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I just get so pumped seeing people have such enormous success, and it just flies in the face of conventional thought, and it's great. And it's kind of neat where you want to document it, and I'll be like, oh, I wonder, because we're all busy, we don't got time to
Yeah.
just watch YouTube videos, but like 6 months from now, I'll be like, I wonder how Todd's doing, and I can always
Yeah,
click
we
on
can
Todd's
check in
channel
and
be
see
like,
how you're doing.
Yeah,
holy
I'm actually
cow, look
very
at that.
happy that I changed my mind on this because I thought the whole time I was thinking I'm not going to do a channel until I'm down to like 250 because nobody wants to hear somebody 400 pounds talk about
No,
diet
it's even
health,
better.
But this is the thing, Todd. You got to keep the black hat because that's going to be the only way we're going to recognize you. I'm telling you, because our friend over, who am I think Ryan, the only way I recognized him against the grain, Ryan, he lost over 100 pounds. I recognized his gold necklace. He's Italian.
Right, I know, Ryan.
And he had this big
Yeah.
chunky gold necklace. And I said, that
Yeah,
guy
'cause
looks familiar.
Ryan's
and I
kind of like
recognized his
he's a neighbor
necklace.
of ours, and he had a homesteading channel, and he raises
Yes.
longhorns, and we raise longhorns.
Yeah.
And we had like collabed a little bit as homestead
I'm
channels.
like, who is
and
that
then
guy?
this Against the Grain popped up, and I'm like, man, that guy looks familiar, but that's not the same guy.
But that's the same
That's
necklace.
the
So you're
same
gonna have
guy.
to keep the hat. Okay, you got to keep the hat.
Definitely will. This been around since I was 5 or so. So it's
Oh, good.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, we appreciate you, Todd. We appreciate all your subscribers, and hope y'all have a blessed night. Have a great Lord's Day tomorrow, and we'll see y'all in the next video.